The security camera footage was grainy, but clear enough. There I was, walking into Gateway Plaza last Friday at 6:47 p.m. Patricia Wells slid the tablet across the conference table like she was revealing evidence of murder. "We need to discuss your after-hours activities, Bradley." Her voice had that neutral corporate tone, but her eyes were ice cold. Beside her, Austin Reed sat with this smug little smile that barely passed for professional. "Your employment agreement explicitly prohibits working for competing companies while you're employed here," Patricia continued. "We have a zero-tolerance policy for this kind of breach of trust. I'm Bradley Hoffman, 49 years old, and until about 5 minutes ago, I was the senior IT infrastructure architect at Tech Vault Systems here in Austin. The only one, actually, not by choice. There were supposed to be 4 of us on the team. Sitting there in that glass conference room, I felt nothing. Not anger, not fear, not even surprise. Just this weird sense of lightness, like someone had just cut invisible chains I'd been carrying for years. "Your employment is terminated, effective immediately," Patricia said, pushing a termination letter toward me. "Security will escort you to collect your belongings." I didn't argue, didn't try to explain, just nodded and said, "You're absolutely right. I should focus on one position." Their expressions flickered for just a second, confusion crossing their faces before settling back into corporate poker mode. They were expecting tears, maybe some begging, definitely some anger, not this calm acceptance. What they couldn't see was this massive weight lifting off my shoulders as I placed my access badge on the table. 4 years of constant stress, of being the only person keeping their entire digital infrastructure from collapsing, evaporating in an instant. Austin cleared his throat, uncomfortable with how calm I was. "We'll need all system passwords and access credentials before you leave." I smiled. Everything's documented in the system knowledge base, just like protocol requires. That was technically true. The documentation existed. But it was like handing someone a map of New York without street names. Complete but useless without the context that only lived in my head. As security walked me to my desk, coworkers stared and whispered. I packed my few personal items, a coffee mug my daughter Emma Hoffman had given me for Father's Day, a small cactus that had somehow survived 4 years of my neglectful watering, and a notebook full of system architectures that only I truly understood. Jennifer Torres, our CTO, watched from her glass office. She knew exactly what would happen next, but she didn't move to intervene. Politics trumped common sense, as usual. When the security guard escorted me through the lobby, that Texas spring air hit my face. I breathed deeply for what felt like the first time in years. By the time I reached my truck, my phone buzzed. Text from Diana Pierce. Still, "Good for our 2 p.m. meeting?" I typed back, "Yes, and now I can accept your full-time offer." 4 years of building someone else's empire while getting paid like a junior developer was enough. 4 years of being the invisible infrastructure, keeping everything running while others took credit and bonuses. 4 years of warnings ignored and requests denied. Now it was over, and the countdown had begun. Let me back up and tell you how I got into this mess. Until this morning, I was the sole guardian of a digital system worth about $800 million. Not by design. Budget cuts and resignations had whittled my team down from 4 specialists to just me. I never meant to become indispensable. That's a dangerous spot in corporate America. But quarter after quarter, as my teammates left for better opportunities and my responsibilities multiplied, I found myself as the only person who really understood how all the pieces fit together. It started 4 years ago when Tech Vault recruited me from IBM. Jennifer Torres sold me this vision during my interview. "We're building a world-class infrastructure team. You'll lead database architecture for our proprietary trading platform." The salary wasn't spectacular, but the challenge was irresistible. Building systems for a growing fintech company, working with cutting-edge technology. I signed on the spot. Reality hit by month 3. First round of strategic restructuring eliminated 2 senior positions. By month 6, my colleague Sarah left for a 40% raise at a startup. Budget freezes eliminated her replacement before they even posted the job. "Temporary situation," Jennifer assured me. "We'll staff back up next quarter." Next quarter became next year. Next year became let's reassess after the merger. The merger happened. Still just me. Meanwhile, the systems grew more complex. Client base doubled. Attack vectors multiplied. I built increasingly sophisticated protection measures, working nights and weekends to keep pace. When I warned about critical vulnerabilities, my emails got acknowledged, but somehow the action items disappeared from meeting minutes. When I requested additional staff, I was told to prioritize better. When I asked for compensation that matched my expanding role, I got praise instead of dollars. "You're our rock star," Jennifer would say, patting my shoulder. "Nobody understands these systems like you do." That was the problem. Nobody did understand them, and nobody wanted to learn. I offered multiple times to train others, to document the increasingly complex architecture I'd built under pressure. The offers were met with nods and smiles and zero follow-through. Last Christmas, I prevented a breach that would have exposed 600,000 client accounts. Worked 60 hours straight over the holiday weekend, barely sleeping, rebuilding our entire authentication system in real time while Emma was home from college. When the crisis passed, I got a $250 gift card and a mention in the company newsletter. The CEO took credit for our robust security culture and got an $850,000 bonus. That's when I realized what I'd become. Not invaluable, invisible. The foundation nobody notices until it cracks. I tried one last time in January, scheduling a meeting with Jennifer and the executive team. Our current staffing model is unsustainable, I explained, showing charts and industry comparisons. We need at least 3 more specialists to properly maintain this architecture. Jennifer nodded sympathetically. "After Q2 numbers come in," she promised. "We're just in a temporary holding pattern." I'd heard that line for 4 years. Without proper staffing, this system requires continuous maintenance from someone who understands every component, I warned. "If something happened to me tomorrow, you'd have serious problems within days, catastrophic ones within weeks." The CFO frowned. "Sounds like we need better documentation, not more headcount." Something broke inside me right then. I've submitted documentation requests for 2 years. They've been deprioritized every single quarter. Uncomfortable silence. Then the usual redirection and vague promises. I left that meeting knowing nothing would change. And I needed change. My blood pressure was through the roof. My relationship with Emma was strained because work emergencies interrupted every family moment. Something had to give. Then came the cybersecurity conference in Denver. I wasn't supposed to attend. Travel budget was frozen. But the organizer was an old IBM colleague who got me a speaking slot on database security architectures. Company couldn't refuse the free publicity. That's where I met Diana Pierce, head of infrastructure for Apex Solutions. She caught me after my presentation, genuinely interested in the theoretical framework I'd outlined. "The implementation must be fascinating," she said. "I'd love to hear more about how you've operationalized these concepts in practice." We talked for hours, carefully avoiding specifics about our employers. Just 2 professionals discussing architecture philosophies. The first real professional conversation I'd had in years. Diana actually listened, asked thoughtful questions, challenged my assumptions in ways that made me think harder, not just defend my choices. It felt like talking to a colleague instead of explaining things to people who didn't want to understand. "You know," she said over coffee, "most architects I meet are either all theory or all implementation. You seem to bridge both worlds." I laughed. 26 years of building things that have to work tends to do that. 26 years? She raised an eyebrow. "You started young?" 23. Straight out of college into IBM's systems group. Been building databases ever since. As the conference ended, Diana handed me her card. "We could use your perspective on our new security framework. Strictly advisory, weekends only. Nothing operational that would create conflicts." The consulting fee she mentioned was more than my monthly salary for weekend work, for being valued. I hesitated maybe 10 seconds before accepting. The work was pure advisory, reviewing their proposed systems, nothing hands-on, nothing that touched their actual infrastructure, nothing that violated my employment agreement or confidentiality obligations. I checked 3 times with legal precedents to make sure. For 6 weeks I lived this double life. Weekdays maintaining TechVault's digital fortress alone and unrecognized. Weekends being respected, heard, and compensated appropriately for 26 years of experience. At Apex, they had actual meetings where technical concerns got addressed. When I mentioned a potential vulnerability in their proposed architecture, they didn't just nod and move on. They scheduled follow-up sessions to dive deeper. They valued expertise. Emma noticed the change immediately when she came home for spring break. "Dad, you seem different," she said over dinner. "Less stressed. Just some consulting work on weekends," I told her. "Helps with the college bills." She grinned. "And it doesn't hurt that someone's actually listening to you for once." "Smart kid." Always has been. The extra money was helping too. Emma's tuition at UT was $35,000 a year, plus living expenses. My Tech Vault salary barely covered it, especially with my mortgage still having 12 years left. The consulting fees gave us breathing room I hadn't felt in years. But it wasn't just about money. It was about respect, about being valued for what I brought to the table instead of taken for granted. At Tech Vault, I was the guy who fixed things when they broke. At Apex, I was the expert helping prevent things from breaking in the first place. The difference in how those two roles were treated was night and day. Then last Thursday, I made what turned out to be a crucial mistake. Instead of parking 6 blocks away like usual, I parked just 3 blocks from Gateway Plaza, closer to Diana's office building for our regular meeting. Someone from Tech Vault spotted my truck. Someone who knew I shouldn't be anywhere near that part of town during work hours. Someone who made assumptions and reported back. I'd been so careful for 6 weeks. Different routes, varied timing, never anything that would create obvious patterns. But you get comfortable, you get careless, and that's when things fall apart. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd spent 4 years warning about single points of failure in our systems. Turns out, I'd created one in my own life. Wednesday night, I got a text from Diana. Board meeting went well. They're ready to make the full offer we discussed. Senior infrastructure architect, team of 4 specialists, 2.1 times your current salary plus equity. When could you start? I stared at that text for a long time. It was everything I'd wanted: respect, resources, fair compensation, a chance to build something new instead of desperately maintaining something broken. I texted back, "Let me think about it over the weekend." But I already knew my answer. The question was timing. I'd planned to give Tech Vault 2 weeks' notice, help transition my responsibilities, leave professionally despite how they'd treated me. Turned out they had different plans. Thursday morning, I walked into the office like any other day, grabbed coffee from the break room, checked my overnight alerts, started reviewing system logs. Normal routine. At 9:15, my phone rang. Patricia from HR. "Bradley, can you come to conference room B? We need to discuss something with you." Her tone was neutral, but something felt off. In 4 years, Patricia had never called me directly for anything. I saved my work, locked my screen, and walked to the conference room where my career at Tech Vault ended. What my former employers didn't realize was that in exactly 72 hours, during end-of-quarter processing when data traffic peaked, their entire system would require the specialized maintenance that only I performed. The maintenance I'd been begging them to train others to do. Not sabotage, not revenge. Just the natural consequence of ignoring warnings and treating critical infrastructure like it maintains itself. As I drove away from Tech Vault for the last time, my phone started ringing. Jennifer's number. I smiled and hit decline. The clock was ticking. By Friday afternoon, I'd signed Diana's employment contract. Senior infrastructure architect with a team of 4 specialists, more than double my previous salary and equity options. The relief was incredible, like setting down weights I'd carried so long I'd forgotten what normal felt like. I spent the weekend preparing for my new role and actually sleeping. No emergency alerts at 3 a.m. No expectation of immediate response to every system hiccup. Just quiet and rest. Saturday afternoon, Emma called from campus. "Dad, you sound different." "Happier, just making some career changes, sweetheart. Good ones." "About time," she said. "You've been killing yourself for that place for years." She was right. I had been killing myself, slowly but surely trading my health and happiness for a company that saw me as a cost center instead of an asset. Sunday evening, I got my first taste of what was coming. My phone buzzed with a text from Jennifer. "Quick question about the database replication schedule. Can you call me?" I didn't respond. Monday morning, I arrived at Apex Solutions in a new shirt and tie. The lobby was designed to impress, but what struck me was the respect. Real respect. "We're thrilled you're joining us, Bradley," Diana said during orientation. "Let me introduce you to your team." Your team. The words sounded foreign after years of solo responsibility. 4 specialists, each with defined roles that complemented each other. They looked at me with curiosity. Not the desperate relief I'd grown used to when appearing to solve the latest crisis. "We've heard great things about your adaptive architecture approach," said Chris, a database specialist with eager eyes, looking forward to learning from you. By lunch, we were deep in discussion about their current setup. They had questions, thoughtful ones. They challenged my assumptions, offered alternatives built on my ideas rather than just implementing them blindly. This was collaboration. I'd almost forgotten what it felt like. Meanwhile, across town, the first warning signs were appearing at Tech Vault. I didn't need inside information. I knew those systems like my own heartbeat. Monday afternoon would bring the first database sync issues as the weekly replication cycle tried to execute without my manual oversight. By Tuesday morning, log files would overflow. By Wednesday afternoon, exactly 72 hours after my departure, the cascading failures would begin during peak processing. My phone buzzed at 4:47 p.m. Monday. Jennifer. I let it go to voicemail. Bradley, it's Jennifer. We're seeing some issues with database replication. Probably just a configuration thing. Call me when you get this. Her voice was casual. Just a small technical hiccup. I deleted the message. Tuesday brought 4 more calls from increasingly senior people. By afternoon, the tone had changed dramatically. This is Patricia from Executive Office. Our systems are experiencing significant performance degradation. The technical team has been unable to resolve the issue. The CEO has authorized me to discuss terms for your return as a consultant. I texted back, I'm focusing on one position now as suggested. At Apex, I was immersed in building something new instead of desperately maintaining something old. My team and I designed an infrastructure that incorporated best practices I'd only dreamed of implementing at Tech Vault. Diana checked in regularly without hovering. How are you settling in? Strange having resources and being heard, I admitted. She nodded. We've all worked at places that didn't value expertise. That's why our retention rate is 95%. Tuesday night, my personal email chimed. From Jennifer, marked urgent. Critical system failure imminent. Name your consulting rate. Please respond immediately. I closed my laptop without replying. Wednesday dawned clear and beautiful. At our morning team meeting, we finalized implementation plans for the new architecture. The energy was electric. 4 brilliant minds building something together, each contribution valued. My phone started vibrating nonstop around 1:30 p.m. I silenced it during our planning session. When I checked later, 23 missed calls and twice as many texts. One from Patricia, legal has reviewed your termination. We may have acted hastily. Please call urgently. Another from Austin, whatever they're paying you, we'll triple it. This is critical. From the CEO himself, national clients losing access, regulatory implications, board meeting and emergency session, call immediately. I felt no satisfaction, just hollow confirmation of everything I'd warned them about. They'd built a kingdom on my shoulders, then pushed me away without understanding what would collapse. That evening, driving home from my new office, a news alert flashed on my dashboard. Major service outage reported at Austin-based financial technology provider. No company name yet, but I knew. Tomorrow's headlines would be worse when quarterly reports couldn't be accessed, when regulators started asking questions, when the stock began to tank. At home, I opened a beer I'd been saving and sat on my back deck watching the sunset. My phone lit up again, Jennifer's number. This time I answered. Bradley. Her voice was ragged. Everything's failing. Database synchronization breakdowns cascading into transaction processing. Nobody can stop it. I warned you, I said quietly. For 4 years I warned you. I know. The admission sounded painful. Tell me what to do. Any price. I took a slow drink. It's not about price anymore, Jennifer. It's about value. We valued you. No, I interrupted. You valued what I produced. Not enough to listen when I said it was unsustainable. Not enough to staff properly or compensate fairly. Silence stretched between us. You know what would have prevented this? I continued. Any one person besides me understanding how these systems work. Anyone reading the warnings I documented every quarter. Anyone listening when I said this exact scenario would happen. Her breathing was the only response. The recovery procedure exists, I said finally. It's in the disaster recovery documentation I submitted last year. The documentation that was deprioritized because I was handling everything so well. I ended the call and turned off my phone. Tomorrow would bring the full reckoning. Thursday morning, Diana was waiting in the lobby with her tablet. Have you seen the news? The headline was stark. Tech Vault Systems suffers major infrastructure failure, stock plummets 31%. Their entire platform's been down for 18 hours, Diana said. 600,000 accounts locked. Trading completely halted. I felt strangely empty looking at those numbers. Not satisfaction, just waste. Waste of talent, resources, and trust caused by short-sighted decisions. They've been calling our main office, Diana continued, trying to reach you through us. My stomach dropped. Are they threatening legal action? They tried. Our legal team reviewed everything. You're completely clean, but they're desperate for someone to blame. As we walked to my office, my team was waiting with concerned faces. Is it true about your former employer? Chris asked. I nodded. Did you really build their entire infrastructure yourself? Not by choice, I said. By necessity. Understanding passed between us. Everyone in that room had been the unacknowledged foundation others stood on. Well, Chris said finally, their disaster's educational for us. Let's make sure our systems never depend on any single person. The simple wisdom of this nearly brought tears to my eyes. Real leadership, acknowledging expertise while preventing unhealthy dependency. My phone finally turned back on, showed 47 missed calls. The last voicemail was from the board chair himself. Mr. Hoffman, this is Charles Morrison. The situation has become critical. The board removed several executives this morning. We recognize the failures that led to your departure. Please call me directly. I sat with this message for a long time. Part of me wanted to let them pay the full price. Another part recognized that innocent people, regular employees, clients, were suffering for leadership's failures. At our afternoon meeting, Diana pulled me aside. Their interim CTO reached out directly. The board fired half the executive team. They're offering a massive consulting fee for emergency recovery. 1 day, remote only, no ongoing commitment. I hesitated. What do you think? Diana considered. Professionally, helping them doesn't hurt us. Their reputation's damaged beyond quick repair. Personally, it's your call. You don't owe them anything. Walking back to my office, Chris fell into step beside me. You know, sometimes the most powerful message isn't letting someone fail completely. It's showing them exactly what they lost. I stopped. What do you mean? If you help them recover, they'll always know you could have prevented their disaster, and that you were gracious enough to help despite how they treated you. That knowledge changes organizations. I thought about this as I returned to my desk where my team was implementing the architecture we'd designed together. Each person's contribution acknowledged, each voice heard. I called Charles Morrison back. Mr. Hoffman, thank you for returning my call. I understand your company's experiencing technical difficulties, I said neutrally. Difficulties is an understatement. Our infrastructure has essentially collapsed. The team cannot resolve the database failures. I let silence fill the line. We're prepared to offer substantial compensation for your assistance. Name your figure. My consulting rate is $2,500 per day. Full day minimum, payment in advance. And I have conditions. Done. What conditions? First, I work remotely. Second, I provide instructions only. Your team implements. Third, you provide written acknowledgement that I warned about these vulnerabilities repeatedly. Fourth, every laid-off team member gets 6 months severance. Fifth, you fund the infrastructure team I originally proposed. Silence. Papers shuffling. Without these changes, you'll be back here in 6 months, I explained. We agree. How soon can you begin? After transferring payment and receiving written confirmation, I spent 8 hours guiding their team through recovery. Step-by-step procedures to resolve the cascade failure. Instructions I'd actually documented, but that had been buried in unread reports. Questions flooded back. The team trying to implement lacked contextual understanding. For 8 hours, I taught what should have been taught years ago. By evening, their systems were stabilizing. Too late to prevent massive damage, but soon enough to avoid complete collapse. As our session ended, I delivered one final message. Every system you're working with has documented procedures and vulnerabilities I identified. Those documents exist. Read them. Because building resilience isn't about technology. It's about people understanding what they're responsible for. 3 months later, I stood before Apex's leadership team, presenting our new infrastructure consulting division. Behind me, slides showed market opportunity created by very public failures like tech vaults. Every company believes their systems are secure until proven otherwise, I explained. Our approach isn't just better technology, it's changing how organizations value their infrastructure operations. Approval was unanimous. Within weeks, we were hiring, expanding to 8 specialists. Our first clients were already lined up, companies terrified of suffering TechVault's fate. That afternoon, I got an unexpected email from Charles Morrison. Thank you. We've implemented the team structure you recommended and hired a chief infrastructure officer reporting directly to the board. The cultural change has been profound. Your impact extends far beyond technical recovery. If you're ever interested in returning, my door remains open. I deleted the email without replying. My answer was already visible in trade publications announcing Apex's consulting division and my role leading it. 6 months after my termination, I took the stage at the same Denver conference where I'd met Diana. This time, not as a lone architect, but as division head of a growing team, presenting our framework for organizational infrastructure resilience. In the audience sat Jennifer and their new CIO. Their expressions as I detailed our client growth told me everything. They understood they'd lost more than technical knowledge. They'd lost the future I was building elsewhere. After my presentation, attendees swarmed with questions and cards. Among them was the new CIO, who waited until others dispersed. Your replacement architecture's impressive, she acknowledged. Built on solid foundations, I replied. Your documentation was extraordinary once anyone read it. You saved them even while leaving. As I gathered my materials, she added, they track your success obsessively now. Every announcement, every client win. And there it was. Not their failure, but my success. Not their loss, but my gain. Every achievement at Apex reminded them of what they'd discarded. That evening, Emma called me after her finals. Dad, you sound different. Happier. She was right. For the first time in years, I wasn't carrying the weight of an entire company on my shoulders. I was building something new instead of desperately maintaining something broken. You know what, sweetheart? Sometimes the best revenge isn't making others fail. It's succeeding so completely they can't ignore what they threw away. Sometimes the greatest revenge of all is simply building the life and career you deserve elsewhere.